If it wasn't for Buddhism, bathhouse prostitution might never have developed in Japan. In this video, I'm going to show you how Buddhism led to bathhouse prostitution in Japan, why it happened in bathhouses of all places, and finally explain why the shogun repeatedly banned the practice, and also didn't, as well as the consequences thereof. But first, Japan, and especially Edo, was absolutely filled with bathhouses, and there were two reasons why. The first of those reasons being directly caused by the shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu, the man who initiated the Edo period, also known as the Tokugawa period. Before he became shogun, he chose to put his castle in the small fishing village of Edo. As a result, the population of the city explosively grew, bringing a lot of people together very closely, bringing us to the first reason: fire. Let me explain. So Japan has very warm summers, strong winds, and sometimes, well, often, earthquakes. At the time, basically all houses were built completely in wood. See the problem? Even one little spark could set what seemed like half of Edo ablaze in what might have felt like minutes. So because of the dangers posed by fire, it was heavily regulated, which meant regular people were not allowed to heat baths in their own homes, making bathhouses an absolute necessity. Now, the second reason was quite simply that baths were also really expensive at this time, and so regular people didn't have the money for it. But this brings us to the question: why was there an industry of professional naughtiness going on in the bathhouses? Well, bathhouses would employ female bath attendants whose job was to assist bathers by washing their back and their hair, and assisting in other ways. Anyone care for a pole polish? Yeah. Now, remember when Edo's population exploded before because of Tokugawa? This is also relevant here, because it led to a skewed demographic, meaning there were a lot more men than there were women in Edo at the time, which almost guaranteed the popularity of these bathhouses featuring these yuna and their naughty practices and services. Which is also why these baths came to be known as yunabudo, yuna for the women and budo from furo, which is bath. Now then, before getting to why Tokugawa banned the practice repeatedly, where does Buddhism fit into all of this? In the 6th century, Buddhism entered Japan, making waves. In Buddhist temples, one of the facilities that was there at especially larger temple compounds were temple baths. At first, these were strictly for the monks to use. However, over time, they also became available to the public, one of their features being they had bath attendants. These consisted of the low-ranking monks who were made responsible for the baths, their cleaning, their management, as well as assisting bathers at the temple bath. And lastly, keeping a check on the monks and making sure that they were silent when bathing. Because if there's anything we know monks for, it's being an unruly bunch, being cray for the ray, as they say. No. Now, these bathhouse attendants were known as yu-ina. Yu for hot water and ina for temple administrator. However, it was often shortened to yuna, like the women in the bathhouses. These temple baths became incredibly popular, to the extent that they started having to build baths outside of the temples to meet demand. As this happened, regular people, not only monks, also started to take on the job of being bath attendants, and so these regular people were also referred to as yuna. Anyone really practicing bath attendance, if you will, came to be called yuna. Over time, women as well did this, and they started to also entertain by playing music, singing, dancing, performing, basically acting similar to courtesans, and eventually doing other things exactly the same or very similar to courtesans. And as time passed, in the end, only women were referred to as yuna. Now, before we get to why Tokugawa repeatedly chose to ban the practice, here's a bonus question for you. When was the first ever ban on mixed bathing in Japan? Pause the video and give your answer in the comments below now. The first official prohibition on konnyoku was in the year 797, in response to rampant fraternizing among Buddhist monks and nuns in the Nara temple baths. Because again, we know monks have a taste for the cray, ray, bae, and cheese. Can I just say, that is my favorite line ever. Rampant fraternization. Brilliant. Beautiful. Now then, yuna were especially popular with samurai, which also led to one prominent samurai getting into a scandal with a yuna. Paparazzi everywhere, the man's life changed forever. This even reached the ear of the shogun and the government, shocking them at the immorality displayed, which led them to take action on accounts of moral morality. Moral morality? On accounts of public morality. Seems we have a live feed. Let's watch. This is Foreigner reporting live for Samurai News. Earlier today, Mr. Tanaka, an otherwise well-respected gentleman samurai and master of Sudoku, was spotted leaving a bathhouse covered in lipstick, once and for all proving you can indeed leave a bathhouse dirtier than when you entered. Samurai News, watashi wa gaijin desu. The actions the government took were bans. Specifically, they banned it so that any bathhouse could only employ as many as 3 yuna at a given time. And more importantly, samurai were completely banned from going to any bathhouse that hired yuna. But do you actually think that worked? People are sneaky, especially in this line of work, and so what they did was they would rebrand the bathhouses as medicinal baths, known as yakuya. So the samurai would go there in order to cure their health issues, such as severe blue balls, etc. Very real problems. In short, the edict or ban didn't really do much, and so after some time went by, Tokugawa doubled down, completely banning the presence of yuna in bathhouses, with a notable exception, which was they were still allowed in bathhouses in the pleasure districts. Now this was a really smart move because instead of criminalizing it, they could now monitor and control the scope of the practice. But what about the consequences of this choice? There were 2 very real issues. The first being the number of samurai suffering from immediate blue balls. Okay, I'll stop now. I'm sorry. But seriously though, it actually did create a problem with the yunagon because they did fulfill other roles than only their naughty side. They also did help bathers wash their backs and their hair, and very importantly for women especially, at the time hairstyles were quite elaborate, and so they needed the assistance of someone else in order to set it up. It was near impossible to do on your own. So in order to fill this need, we're back to boys, baby! Enter Sansuke. Not Sasuke. Sansuke. These were male bath attendants who, for a small price, would help you wash your back, wash your hair, set your hair how you want it, etc. Now, to no one's surprise, these men became very popular with especially female bathers. However, they're rumored to have also engaged in some naughtiness, but that's not what they were primarily known for, unlike the yuna. Now, the second consequence was actually a rather wholesome one, because now that the yuna were no longer an attraction to the bathhouses, they instead built many places, second floors, where people would go specifically to socialize with other bathers, which led to bathhouses becoming the Japanese version of 18th and 19th century coffee shops or coffee houses in England and Europe. So the place where the entire community would get together and share gossip and exchange opinions, etc. So, had it not been for Buddhist bath attendants, as well as the spread of temple baths, it's very likely that bathhouse prostitution might never have developed in Japan at all. Fascinatingly, even today, Japan has a similar practice to the one from the Edo period. Today, it's known as soap lands, where customers will go and in baths, soaped in, hence the name, will engage in naughtiness. But to understand how all of this began and the cultural influence of temple baths on Japanese bathing culture, as well as the origins of the yukata, you can check out this video next on the origins of Japanese bathing culture. What an ending. Nice. Peak.